welcome to the deep dive. You've given us a really fascinating stack of source material today.
Yeah, it's quite a mix, isn't it?
It really is. We've got international trade, cutting-edge AI research, then huge global business deals, and even, like, dating trends.
All over the map, but there's definitely a common thread.
AI.
Exactly, AI. So our mission here is basically to unpack all this for you. We'll pull out the key insights, maybe some surprising facts, and try to connect the dots.
Yeah, give you that shortcut to understanding what's going on with AI across these different areas.
Without you having to wade through it all yourself.
Precisely. It's a rich stack. So let's get started. Let's dig in. Okay, first up, we're looking at geopolitics, international trade, Taiwan specifically.
That's right. Taiwan's taken this pretty significant action recently involving some major Chinese tech firms.
Okay, what happened?
So Taiwan's International Trade Administration, they've basically added Huawei and SMIC.
The big semiconductor company?
That's the one. Them and their subsidiaries onto a specific list.
And being on this list means what?
Exactly. It means they now need explicit government approval from Taiwan.
Approval for what?
For any shipments coming from Taiwan to them.
Wow. Okay, so not a full ban, but definitely a new hurdle.
A significant one, yeah.
And the reason they gave.
Yeah.
The official reason.
Well, the source says it's about combating arms proliferation and, other national security
I
concerns.
understand the practical effect.
The impact is that Taiwanese businesses, they need that government okay before shipping anything to Huawei or SMIC. And this apparently hits things like access to Taiwan's plant construction tech, materials, equipment.
Stuff you need to build advanced chip factories.
Exactly. Crucial stuff.
And one source you pulled, Bloomberg, suggested this could actually potentially set back China's progress.
Yeah, specifically their efforts to develop new AI semiconductors.
Interesting. It really highlights Taiwan's critical spot in that whole tech supply chain.
Definitely. It shows how these trade rules and national security lines can get tangled up real fast, especially with foundational tech like chips for AI.
Okay, so that's kind of the external picture, right? Controlling the flow of tech. Now, let's pivot completely. Let's look inside the AI itself. Some really fascinating research.
Yeah, this part's about how AI might learn differently in the future. And there's a great quote from Alvin Toffler that kicks this section off in the sources.
Oh, yeah. What is it?
The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
That fits perfectly, doesn't it? Because the sources explain a big limitation of today's AI, like ChatGPT or Claude.
The big LLMs, yeah.
They're essentially frozen, right, after they're trained.
That's the term used, yeah, frozen.
But
The P in GPT is for pre-trained, and once that's done, their core knowledge is fixed.
like insects trapped in amber. I like that analogy from
They're
this.
vivid, right. And the problem is updating them means this massive, expensive retraining process.
So they get out of date fast. They wouldn't know about stuff happening, like, now or
Right.
next year.
Exactly. There's this growing gap between what the AI knows and, well, reality.
Okay, so what's the potential fix? The research you found.
Right. So researchers at MIT are working on something called self-adapting language models, SEAL models.
Self-adapting. Okay, what's the core idea?
Well, the really cool thing is, unlike current models that just kind of passively absorb data, SEAL models can, get this, update themselves.
Oh.
They generate their own training data from new information, and then they figure out the best way to learn from that data.
Okay, wait. So think about how you learn something new. You don't just reread it.
Right. You take notes, maybe make flashcards, explain it.
You work with it, restructure it.
Exactly. And SEAL does something sort of analogous. It actively reformulates, restructures new info it gets.
Okay, that's interesting, but how does it know how to restructure it effectively?
That's the really clever bit. It doesn't just follow one rule. It actually generates multiple possible versions of training material from the new info. Then it tries learning from each version and uses reinforcement learning like trial and error with feedback to see which approach worked best.
So it learns which self-teaching methods are most effective for it.
Precisely. It gets better at creating its own training data over time, like a student figuring out the best way to study.
That's wow. Did the study show it actually working?
Yeah, the MIT study had some impressive results. First, on knowledge incorporation, learning new stuff without forgetting the old.
Good.
They fed it a passage about indigenous tribes using GPS tech to protect land. Seal didn't just store the text, it generated its own concise summaries, like remote sensing technology can be used by indigenous tribes.
Yeah.
And the Trio tribe uses GPS devices to map.
And learning from those self-made notes.
Right, learning from that self-generating material, even though it was a smaller model, about 7 billion parameters.
Which isn't tiny, but not the biggest ones out there.
No, definitely not. It achieved 47% accuracy on questions about the text. And that beat traditional methods, and even beat using training data that was generated by the much larger GPT 4.1 model for the same task.
Suggesting it might be a more efficient way to learn.
Potentially, yeah. And it also did well on what's called few-shot learning new tasks from just a few examples. On abstract reasoning puzzles, Seal learned to generate its own strategy for training, like figuring out data augmentation optimization settings.
It figured out how to approach the problem itself.
Kind of, yeah. And it hit a 72.5% success rate, much better than conventional methods on those puzzles.
Okay, so this SEAL research, why is it a big deal? Why does it matter?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. One is this idea of the data wall.
Right, the fear we might run out of high-quality human text to train these huge models on.
Exactly. Some projections say that could happen by, 2028. Seal could potentially get around that by generating useful synthetic data internally. Keep learning even when human data runs low.
Which ties into sustainability, economics.
Right, maybe we don't need exponentially more human data. Maybe smaller models could improve themselves through self-learning. That could, make powerful AI development a bit more accessible, not just for the tech giants.
And what about for, us, the user?
Well, imagine your personal AI assistant, not just a static thing. Imagine it actually learning from your conversations, your interactions.
Updating its knowledge based on what I tell it or what's happening in the news.
Yeah, without needing some massive, infrequent update, it could stay current in fields like medicine or finance, a kind of living knowledge tool.
Are there downsides, challenges?
Sure, the researchers mentioned them. There's the risk of catastrophic forgetting, basically. Learning new things makes it forget old things. That's a classic AI problem.
Okay.
And the self-training process itself is still computationally expensive right now.
So hurdles remain.
Definitely. But the potential shift is huge. Moving from AI as a frozen encyclopedia to, a dynamic, self-improving textbook.
AI tools that grow with you.
Yeah, that's the idea, learning how to learn.
Okay. Fascinating stuff on the research front. Let's shift gears again. Big time. From the lab to the boardroom. A major business deal involving AI.
Right. This one involves AstraZeneca, the big pharma company, and China's CSPC pharmaceutical group.
And it's described as an AI-led research deal focused on chronic diseases.
That's it. And the scale.
Oh.
Well, it tells you something about the confidence they're placing in AI here.
How big are we talking?
The deal is worth up to, wait for it, $5.3 billion.
Billion, with a B.
With a B, yeah. Now, that includes $110 million up front,
Okay.
up to $1.62 billion if they hit development milestones, and then potentially another $3.6 billion tied to sales milestones later on.
That is a massive investment. What are they actually trying to do?
The focus is on discovering and developing preclinical candidates. They specifically mention a small molecule oral therapy for immunological diseases. And the key is they'll be using CSPC's AI-driven research platform to do it.
Interesting. And the sources mentioned this fits into AstraZeneca's broader strategy in China.
Yeah, China's their second biggest market, and this is part of an effort to, boost their business there. It also comes after other AI investments. They've made like an R&D hub in Beijing, collaborations with AI firms like Immuni, Choir.ai.
Yepis AI, yeah.
Right, so they've been building up to this.
And wasn't there a previous deal between AstraZeneca and CSPC?
There was, yeah, back in October, a licensing deal for a cardiovascular drug candidate. That one was worth up to $1.92 billion. So this new AI deal is even bigger.
Suggests the first partnership went well enough.
Seems likely. And an AstraZeneca exec, Sharon Barr, is quoted saying, "This deal highlights their commitment to innovation to tackle chronic diseases which impact over 2 billion people globally."
Wow, that's the potential impact scale they're aiming for.
Huge scale. The source also notes CSPC mostly makes finished drugs now, but they're actively looking for more of these kinds of R&D deals.
And AstraZeneca gets exclusive rights to anything discovered.
Exclusive licenses, yeah, for candidates that come out of this AI collaboration.
So what's the takeaway here for someone listening?
I think it really shows AI isn't just, theory or consumer gadgets anymore. It's being embedded right into the core of massive global industries like pharma. Billions of dollars are being bet on it.
A clear signal that major companies believe AI can fundamentally speed up finding treatments for really widespread, serious health problems.
Exactly. The sheer size of the investment reflects that confidence. It's not a small bet.
Okay. From global pharma deals to something maybe even more personal, the final section in your sources looks at AI and dating.
Yeah, this one definitely caught my eye. The numbers are pretty striking. Matches Singles in America study found that 26% of singles are using AI now.
Using AI for dating, how?
Well, to enhance their dating lives is how the report puts it.
Okay, but that's a big jump, right?
Huge. The report calls it a whopping 333% increase from just the year before, 2024, so very rapid adoption.
Wow. What are they using it for specifically?
Things like crafting their profiles, maybe help writing messages, or even screening potential matches based on compatibility.
Like analyzing profile text.
Seems like it, yeah. Practical stuff.
And younger people are driving this.
Very much so. Nearly half of Gen Z singles reported already using AI for these kinds of dating tasks.
And what do people want AI to help with?
The top answers were filtering matches, 44% wanted help with that, and creating profiles, 40% wanted help there. Seems focused on efficiency and making a good first impression.
But does it feel authentic? The sources mentioned a debate, right? Deal breakers.
Yeah, definitely. Using AI to alter photos, 44% called that a deal breaker. And using AI to actually generate the conversation, 36% saw that as a deal breaker too.
So a split view. Some see it as fake, others maybe just as a tool.
Seems that way. An expert in the study, Dr. Amanda Gesselman, suggests it's not necessarily replacing intimacy. She thinks it gives singles an edge, offers clarity, efficiency, especially for younger people who feel, overwhelmed by options.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But then there was that other data point, AI as a companion.
Yeah, that was surprising. 16% of singles overall said they've engaged with AI romantically.
16%.
And it jumps way higher for younger groups. 33% of Gen Z, 23% of millennials.
A third of Gen Z singles have engaged romantically with AI.
That's what the data suggests. And there was another separate survey mentioned where 8 in 10 Gen Z said they might even marry an AI.
Okay, well, although the source did include expert concerns about that, right? Emotional dependence?
Yeah, potential risks were noted, especially for minors becoming too dependent.
So you have this rise of AI tools for dating efficiency and even AI companionship. How does that fit with, people's actual relationship beliefs?
That's the fascinating part. The same study found this really high belief in things like destiny, forever love, love at first sight. And those beliefs have actually increased.
Increased, really?
Yeah, significantly since 2014, apparently.
So more belief in romance and destiny.
But paradoxically, a lot of people, 39%, said they don't actually see those relationship goals in real life around them. Instead, they're looking towards social media, reality TV.
Which, as Dr. Gesselman pointed out, can make love look like a highlight reel, not real life.
Yeah.
Creates pressure.
Exactly.
So the insight here is, what? This tension.
I think so. You've got this rapid adoption of AI as a very practical tool, filtering, writing profiles, messaging efficiently, happening at the same time as this resurgence in really high romantic ideals, destiny. Soulmates.
So are people using the AI tool because they're searching for that perfect fated match and they think efficiency helps?
That could be one interpretation. Or is the use of these tools and maybe even the AF companions starting to change how people even think about finding love and connection itself?
A collision of high romance and high tech.
Yeah, it's a really interesting dynamic.
Wow, okay, that was quite a journey through this stack. We covered a lot of ground.
We really did.
From, trade policy affecting AI chips.
To AI that might teach itself.
To multi-billion-dollar pharma deals using AI.
And ending up with AI in dating and romance.
It really shows how AI is just weaving through everything, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And looking across these different sources, you start to see connections you wouldn't spot otherwise, that bigger picture.
Yeah. And hopefully doing this deep dive helped you, listening, to kind of quickly grasp some of the key things happening. Maybe sparked an idea or two about how AI is impacting things.
That was the goal. And maybe just one final thought to leave you with.
Go for it.
We talked about AI, like SEAL, potentially learning and adapting all the time based on new info, based on interactions.
Right, evolving with us.
Yeah. And we talked about AI showing up in really personal spaces like dating, companionship. So the question to mull over is, what does that mean for us? For human learning, human connection, maybe even human evolution, when the tools we're using every day aren't just static, but are constantly learning and changing right alongside us.
Something to think about.